Summer Games Fest officially begins this week, so let's discuss in detail the possibility of getting Silksong news during the event. One quick disclaimer before we get started: upon starting my research for this video, I realised it's actually called Summer Game Fest. Game. This whole time I've been saying Summer Games Fest, and I'm afraid I'm not going to stop for this video. Just in case you've been living under a rock, rock's already confirmed for Silksong by the way, Summer Games Fest is an annual gaming event created and hosted by Geoff Keighley, featuring a series of live streams where devs can showcase their upcoming games and products. Summer Games Fest started back in 2020, partly in response to the cancellation of the physical E3 event due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it provided a platform for game developers to proceed with their announcements while adhering to social distancing norms. However, back then it was a virtual event that spanned 4 months, from May the 1st to nearly the end of August. Some of you may have noticed that I said it was partly in response to E3's cancellation, so let me explain that in a bit more detail. While it's true that the pandemic likely sped things up, a virtual event of this scale seems to have always been the plan for Geoff. Love him or hate him, he's been a notable and influential person within the industry for a long time. Some might even go as far to describe him as an industry leader and games expert. And some might say maybe a person isn't deserving of those titles if they repeatedly turn a blind eye towards what's actually happening in the industry, host a 2-hour gaming showcase, claim they do a good job with diversity in their shows, and decide to feature no women on stage, and cite Death Stranding as an example of what might be considered an indie game. He'd previously attended every E3 event since its inception back in 1995, covered it as a games journalist, and taking on hosting roles from 2017 to 2019. You might recall E3 Coliseum, which was a 2-day event with a series of live-streamed panels, conversations, and presentations all about the culture of gaming, which in recent years was produced and hosted by Geoff. Before the lockdowns even begun in 2020, Geoff announced he wasn't comfortable taking part in E3 that year because of recent changes that they had made and the direction it seemed to be going in. I'm going to be open and honest with you, there's a lot of vague, ambiguous reasoning behind why Geoff and big players like Sony started pulling out. Geoff even posted a statement on social media explaining that he was going to be open and honest, and then listed none of the actual reasons. It certainly does seem like there's some messy behind-the-scenes stuff that we'll likely never know about. I suspect the combination of moving away from centering industry professionals, the big ESA data leak which publicised the personal information of thousands of journalists, public perception of the event after years of claims and demos building expectations that were just not lived up to on release, increased costs for vendors, that leaked pitch deck confirming a rebrand to being a fan, media and influencer event, and of course, for Geoff at least, who runs multiple other events where gaming announcements are made, it's in his best interest for E3 to not have the monopoly on high-profile presentations. Personal feelings about Geoff aside, he did have a clear vision, and while attending E3 was always a big dream of mine, he was right that E3 needed to, well, move with the times. The presentations were always the best part for the mass consumer base. Okay, fast forward to 2024 and we're 2 days away from the first Summer Games Fest presentation, and already well into the schedule for the entire roster of Not-E3 showcases. We've seen the State of Play, we've had the Marvelous Games Showcase, we've seen the Best Indie Games Summer Showcase, and there's been nothing about Silksong so far. Now, it'd be silly for me to proceed without mentioning Geoff's recent live stream to discuss what we can look forward to this Summer Games Fest, which seems to be just him scrambling to manage expectations before the event. I know that sounds negative from me, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. We know, especially as Silksong fans, how gamers can react when they're disappointed about lack of news for their favourite games. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe everything communicated in that live stream does pertain to the Summer Games Fest live show. Yes, I know it's confusing, hence the explanation at the beginning of this video. This specific panel, showcase, whatever you'd like to call it, will focus on games that have already been announced, games that are releasing in 2024 and 2025, not way off in the future. He mentioned a few titles by name specifically, like Kingdom Hearts 4 and The Wolf Among Us 2 as games that won't be coming up, and also that there's not going to be a big one more thing announcement at the end. I did enjoy Relia's video on the stream, so I'll link that below if you want to hear more, but to summarise quickly for this video, he didn't explicitly say Silksong won't be in the show, but he did say that he, and these are his exact words, thinks it's gonna be a while. Remember, he had no problem straight up denying the inclusion of other games, it's just Silksong that he won't give a straight answer to. He also refers again to the show's partners, which we know don't include Team Cherry. Then he rambles on for a bit because he knows full well what will happen if he doesn't straight up deny it. He'll be fueling the rumour mill, he'll be faced with the wrath of the Silksong subreddit, every single word he utters will be turned into an 8-minute plus unnecessarily stretched out YouTube video as the community psychoanalyzes what he possibly could have meant, which is a good way to lead into, don't worry, I'll keep my take on the stream short as I'm horrifically bad at reading people. An optimist might say it's a sure thing given he didn't outright deny it, a pessimist might say he doesn't want to deny it because he wants the viewership and engagement from Silksong fans, and a realist might ignore that last point because gamers are going to be watching regardless of whether they're waiting for Silksong or not. Personally, I can't help but think he's mastered the art of purposely omitting important information, and he knows his corpse speak, so, you know, how to say words without actually saying anything, so my hopes are completely unaffected by anything he said in that stream. Other points that have been raised by fans include number 1, Matthew Griffin, aka Lef, the marketing and publishing guy for Silksong, following the Summer Games Fest account. Now, he works in the industry, so this seems like pretty normal and expected behaviour to me. And 2, Geoff has mentioned Silksong and Team Cherry many times over the years. It's pretty clear that he'd love to have them on one of his shows, and that might just be an unrequited love, we'll never know. So that covers the Summer Games Fest live show, but let's not forget that Summer Games Fest is actually 11 separate events. The Day of the Devs showcase immediately follows the Summer Games Fest live show, which is a showcase dedicated to upcoming indie games. Leth also reposted the Day of the Devs showcase announcement on Twitter, which could mean something, but he's always been pretty supportive about indie games in general, so I wouldn't go full cope just yet. These Day of the Devs showcases have previously announced indie hits like A Little to the Left, Animal Well, and Death's Door. The chance of Silksong appearing isn't zero, but I wouldn't say it's much higher than that. The Summer Games Fest showcase that I think has the highest chance of featuring Silksong is the Xbox Game Showcase. We know it's coming day 1 to Game Pass, they got to show off a reveal trailer in 2022 for that, they recently added their Silksong store page, they jumped the gun with a release window announcement, they kept trolling us on Twitter, which I can't wait to see the end of, etc, etc. I don't know how to word it better than, yeah, it certainly could come up. Geoff may well have been specific with his wording because he knows it won't be in the first live show, but it could come up in one of the others. And I know there's been some disagreement within the community given we've been told that the next announcement will be direct from Team Cherry, and it'll be a big one. Some take that at absolute face value and believe that we're going to be getting something through their blog or social media channels. Some, like myself, believe that that means we'll be getting a big update or trailer direct from Team Cherry, but that could be communicated through a larger showcase event. For example, like I have hopes and dreams of a release date trailer during a showcase, but with like an accompanying message from Team Cherry. Ideally I'd love a video from the devs, but a blog post works too. Either way, I think that gamers should be especially interested in this Xbox showcase. Xbox have a lot to prove right now, and I mean specifically Xbox senior management types. This will give us a better insight into what their strategy going forward is going to be, because, you know, it seems a little bit crazy right now. Maybe some understanding into why they chose to lay off so many talented devs and studios in the past year. To save me rambling any further, I'll be honest with you. I won't be able to film live reactions for any of the shows, and I'm actually not going to be able to watch any of the ones on the 7th live at all. So, knowing my luck, we'll get a trailer, and a release date, and a collector's edition, and a full breakdown of what happened during development that day, so you're welcome. Unfortunately, I am still a little bit ill, so if you've made it this far in the video, please send me all of your get well wishes in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.